Let's just pull that up. And the reason I've got it up is because it's been trading up very nicely since we got up about 6:30. And hopefully you can all hear me okay. I've got my microphone on, which I often forget about. There we go. And the reason I've got this up is because, as I say, I picked it up early doors when we were up and around about 6:30, because it has some great lessons. But it's also the fact that it's a pair that I'm in. In fact, let's just pop that up. This is the daily. There's quite a lot to talk about this chart, actually. And a short Euro Aussie. I'm long Aussie Swiss. I've been long this pair for some time. I'll show you roughly where I got in. This is on the daily, but what it does demonstrate and indicate very clearly on the daily is the massive amount of volume that was driven into the market around this over this period of around a month or so. Peaking around here, we had this huge long-legged doji with a massive amount of volatility associated. And then we had the highest volume of all, which was this candle here. An absolute ton and a half of volume came in, biggest volume on the session so far. And that was enough for me, probably a bit early. If you were new on this on volume price analysis, you'd probably wait and be a little bit more patient. But I got in pretty much thereafter and was prepared to wait through congestion phases and all the rest of it. And I've been tracking this one up. So still in here. I'm also long a load of yen pairs as well. Not the Swiss yen, I hasten to add, but certainly some others. And the question you've got to ask now is, well, where is this heading? And at what point would I look to get out? And it's pretty straightforward, certainly from the daily chart. At any rate, what we've got ahead, excuse me, what we have ahead is a low volume node up at 6.4, which is very nice. Thank you very much. So hopefully the market should move through there pretty swiftly. We had a nice up candle yesterday, good volume under that. You've got to remember all the time when you look at that and you think, oh gosh, that's very low. But you've got to hop over this bunch of volume in here and really go back to what was going on. I was going to use the word normal conditions, but non-volatile conditions, let's say. So when you look at something like that, you hop over this lot and you go and have a look at something over here, it is much more in line. And therefore, when you look at it perhaps in the context of this, not only does it tell you that the signal here was just monster, it couldn't really be anything other than but a huge amount of buying. But it really does demonstrate that, you know, when you're looking at volume, you have to consider all aspects of it. You can certainly hop over on the same time frame chart to compare like with like, and remembering the fact this is obviously an unusual event, but nevertheless it does demonstrate how the importance of volume. So yesterday was good, that's fine. And what have we got ahead? We've got low volume node up here, so we should expect that to move through there pretty quickly. Then up through 65, 66, we start to move into a deeper area here, so I'm expecting some congestion there. And then we've got a very strong area of price resistance coming into play up at 67. Now, depending on what the weekly chart is telling me at that particular point, then, you know, that may or may not be a point at which I'd close out or part close, but it also demonstrates the amount of time, the length of time, and also the application of EPA. It doesn't just apply to a 1 minute, 5 minute chart. You can use it just as well on a daily, weekly, monthly time frame to keep you in. And obviously you've got the trend monitor here. We had the transitional through. Yep, I got in when it was still red over here somewhere. It's transitioned through. We've had the congestion phase and we're now in bright blue. We've had more congestion here. No, not a flicker of change on the trend monitor. We're just carrying on higher. And that's what we're seeing this morning. And in a microcosm way, if you like, just hopping down onto the 10 minute. The nice thing with Ninja, excuse me for a moment. Remember to put my microphone back on this time. The nice thing with, just get rid of that. The nice thing with Ninja is that you also get the local timestamp. So this is 7 o'clock our time. This is 8 o'clock. We've gone through the London Open. We're seeing a nice rise in volume here as we move into London. This was pretty decent volume as well. What I just wanted to highlight was this region here. We had the volume point of control, and then we had these huge regions of both support and resistance. Below, we had two levels of support. two very thick dashed blue lines and a thick red dashed line above. Now this is off the accumulation distribution, and what this is doing is it's looking at the number of times a region has been tested or retested, and every time that occurs, the line thickens accordingly. So you get an instant visual impression of the strength of these regions as they build in real time. As I say, every time it's tested, then they present in a thicker line. You also get a numerical display over here of how many times that's occurred. You probably can't see it because it's not back behind the volume point of control. But these have been tested multiple times, and when you get a cluster like this, as we have here, we have very strong support below. It was tested, retested, held, and then we've got this very strong region above, and obviously we've got the volume point of control. And as we break away from the volume point of control, we're moving through a low volume region. The price action is rising. We've got rising price, rising volume, all nice and tickety-boo. The last chart, the last candle here, excuse me a moment. The last candle here, we had a little bit of selling coming in, a little bit of weakness, candle to the upper body, wick to the upper body rather. But other than that, not really much to frighten the horses. I've got 15-second, 3-minute and 5-minute here. This is the 10-minute we just looked at, down onto the 15. Pretty similar picture on 15. There we are, moving up nicely. Again, we had this very strong region which had broken through in terms of resistance at that point, which has now become support. Good volume driving through, nice candles. Yeah, we've got some wicks to the upper body, but nothing very scary, and we're moving up into a lower volume region as well. So it's all looking very nice. Now, the other point I would obviously make about this is I'm in a position down here on the daily. Do I really care what's going on in terms of a 3-minute chart or a 5-minute chart or a 10-minute chart or even a 15-minute chart? The truth of the matter is no, I really don't, because it's of no consequence to me. I'm more interested in what's happening probably on the 4-hour, up onto the daily, and then I'll be looking at the weekly to get context for the longer term. Now, the other point about this is really, I suppose, picking up on what Chris is saying, and it's really a question of digging out these trades because, in fact, let me stay with the chart for a moment. Let me flick this over to something like the Aussie Yen. And when you look at the Aussie Yen, you think, okay, well, you know, everyone's buying Aussie at the moment. Well, they're not actually. You know, there are much better trades to be in. If you're in the Aussie Yen, and again, you know, this is another one I'm in, but I'm in longer term, so I don't really care what's going on this morning. It gives you a sense of finding the right pair to trade because it doesn't automatically equate that the buying in the Aussie, if that is the one you're looking at, will be the same strength across all the pairs. And the reason for that is very simple. It's because there's so much selling of the Swiss franc right now. And Chris asked the question, you know, what's happening with the Swiss franc? Personally, I don't know. And to be honest, I don't really care. All I'm interested in is what the market is doing. If the market's buying or selling a particular currency, that's fine by me. I just follow along. I've isolated out on the currency array here just to make the point. And this is on the faster time frames. This is on the 3-minute. This is on the 5-minute. This is on the 10-minute. And what it tells you absolutely loud and clear, crystal clear, is that the Swiss franc is being sold big time. And that is what is driving this move. You can see the Aussie Swiss up here. It's probably the Swiss National Bank. They're always in there. It's up at the top here. And let's just hunt out. Here we are. The Aussie Yen is down here. The Aussie Yen's here. The Aussie Yen's here. So the reason for this terrific move that we're seeing at the moment is if we go to the currency strength indicator, which will also signal that very clearly. Yeah, sure, we've got Aussie buying here. We've got Aussie buying, we've got flip-flopping around here on 5 and flip-flopping around on 3. But what's really driven this move is the Swiss franc here, the green line, absolutely selling off big time, up onto the 15, still selling off big time over here. And that's probably enough to keep this flatlining down here before we see any reaction in terms of reversal off that bottom. So it's making the point that you've just got to go and dig out. I mean, we're seeing some very strong buying of the pound. We've got strong buying of the euro coming in now. The pound's actually taken off. Euro is starting to follow suit, taken off here, followed suit with the euro, and it's starting to kick up here. Not so much the euro on 15, but certainly some strong buying on pound. Wouldn't even need to go and look at a chart. Cable will be rising nicely because we've got selling of the dollar. We've got a cross here, starting to tip over here. You wouldn't, for example, be looking at, well, you wouldn't look at the euro pound, for example. It'd be pointless because they're both being bought. Now, that may equate into a minor trend in terms of the euro pound because the pound buying is slightly stronger than the euro buying, but nevertheless, you wouldn't bother with it right now because it's not a strong trend. If you're looking for congestion, it would be one to look for, obviously, but what you're looking at is you're looking for trends all the time. You're looking for that strength of trend. So you've got the pound, you've got the Canadian falling strongly, you've got the dollar falling strongly, yen starting to kick over. It's up at the top here, hasn't started to roll here, still hasn't got to overbought here, and it's still rising quite strongly here. So you've got to pick them out. You've got to pick the right winners. I wouldn't say it's like horse racing. It's a bit of a silly analogy, but it's trying. Sorry? Yes, it is. Well, I did study form a lot in my youth when I had the time. It is. You are studying form. Manners, right? Perhaps it's not such a bad analogy after all. But this makes the point. Let's flick this back to the Aussie Swiss. There we go. Which would you rather be in right now? Do you want to be in the Aussie Yen or do you want to be in the Aussie Swiss? I'm not going to answer the question. It's rhetorical. But there we go. What are we seeing? Let's have a look at the 15. You know, still lots to go. There's lots of volume coming in under this candle. Now that may be a heads up that if we get a narrowish spread candle, although there is actually a wick to the bottom here, which you can't quite see, so it's here. So if this continues, you know, that's a signal that, yeah, we've got good, strong buying. It's going to continue higher, supportive. Just have to wait for that candle to close. We're at 8:14, so we've got another minute on that particular candle. So, you know, that looks pretty positive. Nice, nice lower wick to the body there. What have we got on 3? Let's head over to 3. There we go. We've got the volume point of control coming into play. Want to see that move higher off there if we're trading this as a scalp. And it's all looking pretty darn nice at the moment. And the trend monitor, as you can see, is blue throughout, nicely supportive. Even from the 15-second and upwards, there's nothing at the moment. Let's just pull that one up. Let me see that one a little bit better. Volume's falling away up here. We've got a resistance building here. This blue line, just want to break through that. But remember, this is 15-second. This is ultra quick. And we're really looking at this from a slightly slower perspective if we're holding this as an intraday scalping trader. And all of that's reflected over on the multiple Renkos, which I've got somewhere here. There we go. That's what we're doing at the moment. And let's just change that one. Just make sure it's on, what are we on there, 15-second. You literally just select your time. Click it there. There we go. That's all up to date. This is telling me we're on, this is on the, these are equivalent, by the way. I've got the 15-second, I've got the 30-second, and I've got the 1 minute down here. And these are the equivalent Renko of the time horizon. And it's just a perfect way to, as a scalping trader, to combine the volume price analysis methodology with the time-based charts below. And you've got the momentum aspect of price action reflected in the Renko, which also smooths out some of the congestion phases and helps to keep you in, but you can also use them to get in exactly the same way. You've got the levels up here. You can see we had the breakthrough. We had the trend dots supportive, blue dots underneath, which is nice, is what we want to see. No change here yet. We've had a little change in the trend dots here. The trend dots will always change first because they're very close to the price action. Then we went back into gray. Now we've gone back into blue. Trend monitor, you can see below, is steadfastly blue, just helping to keep us in through these trades. Yep, I'm going to move back to Anna. We'll just go back to the country charts. There we go. To see where we are. That's ticking up nicely. Let me pass back to Anna.
Yes, Chris, how can you forget the SMB? That is actually, you've made a really good point there, because this is getting to know your currency. The Swiss franc is always always going to be, you're going to see sudden moves, unexpected moves, because the SMB, sometimes they signal it, sometimes, you know, they leave dirty great clues in the media. It's almost as if they sort of warn people, we are going to be intervening and buying to weaken it. And, you know, it sometimes it works, most times it doesn't. Other times they just step in. And so it's, again, it's getting to know what is going to move one of the currencies in the currency pairs. Now, the price action we've been looking at, oh, you haven't changed present.